Hey, welcome everyone. Uncovering growth in life's unscripted moments means learning to find strength, resilience, and personal development in situations where there is no clear plan or structure. Often we experience the most growth when life doesn't go as expected, whether it's a sudden change, a challenge, or an opportunity that comes out of nowhere. In these moments of uncertainty, we are pushed to adapt, reflect, and sometimes rethink our approach to life. By stepping outside of the rigid frameworks we often set for ourselves, we become more open to new possibilities and deeper insights. It's about embracing the unpredictability of life, using it as a catalyst for self discovery and transformation rather than resisting it. Welcome to another episode of The Other Side of Addiction. Usually I say after that, I am your host, Al Richards. But today, guess what, guys? We're going to throw a little reverse podcast here on you. Today, I am actually the guest, and today's host is my good friend and my coach from Canada, Dave Kenny. Dave, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Al, I want to welcome you as guest to the Other Side of Addiction podcast here, streaming everybody out of Salt Lake City. It's an honor to hang out with you, to visit with you, and I look forward to diving deep into why we're doing a reverse podcast today. I look forward to this, buddy. So it's an honor. It's an honor to take the reins of this beautiful ship of yours, and I will work hard to bring a great story with you.
Oh, I'm sure it's just going to come natural for you, Dave, because that's who you are, buddy.
So let's dive into this. There's a reason why how this came up, and this came up about, if I'm not mistaken, 6 days ago, 5 days ago. You and I, maybe 5 days ago, Saturday of last week, and you've gone through a recent traumatic event, a significant life event. You cruising along, going well, and a couple, you've been struggling with some pain a little while ago, and why don't you give us the backstory for 30 seconds as to what I'm referring to? What's been going on in your life that has been a significant, in this case, physical challenge and maybe emotional, spiritual too? What's happening?
Oh man, it's been all of that, Dave, in all reality. So just really quick here, I've been struggling for a couple of years with numbness in my foot. Last year, the numbness in my foot got a little worse, and then also into my right calf. It felt like my calf was in a vice. And for those of my friends and that who follow me a lot know my spiritual place in my church is hiking in our beautiful Wasatch Mountains, and that came to a complete halt last year. I only did two or three hikes. And I did some physical therapy and just kept kind of working through the issues. And finally, the physical therapist said, Al, I think you need to see a vascular specialist. So I ended up going and seeing a vascular specialist. Long story short, I ended up having a couple surgeries within 10 days and then just had a third one 2 days after you, I mean, 2 days before you and I even spoke about doing this podcast. That one really floored me when I was in the emergency center. What was brought to my attention, I mean, basically you just feel all the blood rush almost out of your body.
So just to back up, we don't need to get into this because your listeners know this, but for somebody who might be new, you yourself are, and we got to be careful with this word recovery today because it could mean addiction recovery and it can mean physical recovery. But you are yourself are nearly 17 years clean and sober, working with your recovery from some addictions, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And you started this podcast to help others and maybe even yourself impact yourself. How long has the Other Side of Addiction podcast been around?
My gosh, I'm excited and blessed to say we hit 4 years in March of this year.
I remember you saying that at first you weren't even sure you'd get two out, let alone 4 years. So,
Yeah.
and then you're cruising along and you run into some pain for a couple years, and then you start following doctor's directions. And the three surgeries you just referred to, that happened in less, was it 2 weeks or 2.5 weeks? It was less than 3 weeks.
Yeah, I ended up having three surgeries, a total of three surgeries within 16 days.
Okay. Now, first surgery was to fix your leg so you could have circulation, feeling, and you can get back up in those darn beautiful mountains. You can go see your grandchildren play soccer, You do a lot of physical work. You love the gym, and you're learning all of a sudden, which all of us do through pain, how important your health is. You end up in the hospital, have the first surgery and the second surgery. Why did you end up having three surgeries?
I started having issues about 3 days after my first surgery, and it just got to where things really got worse. And it was scaring me. Got a hold of the doctor, told him what was going on. He says, okay, we're going to get you again. So 10 days later, after the first surgery, I had the other surgery. I had some more work done on the vascular system. The day after that surgery, I went in for a follow up. Everything that they had done had really gotten worse. And I let it go for a bit. It got to where it was just, again, everything was just escalating. My calf was swelling up like a balloon. My foot was swelling up. My foot felt like I had an ice block around it on a continuous basis, which now it's starting to scare me because I know I'm not getting blood flow there when your foot is that freaking cold. And luckily, my daughter started feeling some feelings, and she's pretty in touch as well with her feelings and what's being said to her. And she called me up. She goes, "Dad, I got a strong feeling you need to get yourself to a doctor, the emergency center." And she made some phone calls and things, and they advised the same thing. So, yeah, just a week ago, this past Wednesday, I went to work all day, walked around on a numb foot, and after work, I finally got my answer. I got that voice in my head that said, "You get your butt to the emergency center right now." And it's, you think you're okay, right? You know that there's issues there, but you think you're okay. And then when the vascular specialist comes in and goes, with that, without even blinking an eye, you have a possibility of losing your leg. You start seeing so many life events thrashing around in your head, right? You start saying, okay, my gosh, no more hiking. Oh my gosh, I'm used to doing this. What's going to happen with this? How is this going to happen? Right? All these thoughts start coming in. And because of certain training that I've had and coaching that I've had, it's really, really helped me because I was able to stop, take some deep breaths, calm myself down. My daughter, my youngest daughter was there. My oldest daughter had to leave for a second. She came over and was holding my hand. And wow, I didn't think I'd get emotional even talking about it because I didn't even get emotional in the hospital when they said that. But I just started thinking, all right, we'll just take it as it comes, right? We'll just see what happens. And then after he saw my CT scan, he came back in about 20, 30 minutes later and he goes, I'm going to tell you something. I'm going to be up front again. And he says, if it wasn't for you being as healthy as you are, you now have a better chance of keeping your leg. And we're going to do everything we can to help save it. And just those few words right there completely changed my whole thought process.
So let's unpack this a little bit. You just shared with everybody your work one day after two surgeries. You're back at work, struggling, more pain still. Advice from your daughter and some friends. Thank you very much.
Yes, yes.
But finally, and I wasn't the only one. You told me you were getting lots of people reaching out to you.
Just a few.
Finally, you go
I
back
wasn't
in.
I
You
wasn't
go
really
back.
sharing a lot, but yeah,
Well, yeah, but you go back into Emerge, and the doctor examines you and says you're staying in a hospital, you're doing a surgery, and you may not have a leg after this. Do I have that right?
pretty much. Yeah, pretty much.
So that night in the hospital, that's a big blow for anybody. And now here's how this fits. We're going to work, we're going to life, and people today will have unexpected, that's why the word, car accidents, some minor, some very serious car accidents, and they're going to wake up in a hospital. Some people today in this world are going to wake up and lose a family member. Some people are going to lose a job or a business today. Some people are going to get the debt credit card calls today. What went through your mind? I can't wrap my head around this. So what went through your mind when the doctor said tomorrow you may not have a leg after surgery? Now you're laying in bed alone that night. What are you thinking about?
Just the scenarios of a picture in myself. I kept picturing myself waking up after surgery and sliding my other leg over there to see if I can, touch my other leg, right? And also just visioning myself on a prosthetic leg. And the thoughts in the emergency center was it was almost like I felt as though my life was over. And then that night, as things progressed, I started thinking, man, no, it's not. I can still do whatever the hell I want to do, right? It just may be different. I just may have to alter a few things to where I can still go out and enjoy life. And we see that resiliency a lot with kids, right? I mean, I was crippled when I was a kid, and they told my parents I'd probably never walk again. And that kept popping in my head, thinking, man, I went through all this as a young boy from age 7 all the way up to 13, and I made it through that. And now here I am, a grown adult. I can still do this. And that thought, I wanted to get that thought out of my head that I could wake up tomorrow and not have a leg. And that's a fight. That is a fight to hear that negativity come in your head, and you, with all the work that you've done, doing everything you can to suppress it, to push it away, right? Not allowing it to come in, and then it would creep in again. And I had some really good support. My daughter I was supposed to leave for St. George that same day, to go down and watch my grandkids in a weekend soccer tournaments, and she stayed a lot longer. My mom came up. I had some good friends come up and stop in and see me, and it just really helped me to know that I had that support, that love. And it's crazy because one of my friends that came up and saw me, he goes, Al, I cannot believe I'm just sitting here talking to you and you're talking to me like nothing major is happening. He says, I would have no clue that you have that fear of waking up without a leg tomorrow.
So, but the first thought you just shared is my life is over.
Yeah.
Okay, what do you attribute the transition to my life is over? And folks, that's a real thought. Whether that means my life is over and I can't work or can't do the things I love, or my life, it's done. Like it's checkout time. Wherever that is, to a state of, wait a minute, and you used the word earlier, resilience. There's a way through this. What do you attribute that switch to? How did that happen?
I contribute it to my past 16 plus almost 17 years of growth.
Are you referring to your recovery from
Just all
addiction?
of it. Yeah. Yeah. Just the whole recovery, and also wanting to, and my story very well, Dave, that after losing my job, I had a phone call and somebody told me I was known as a liar and a manipulator, right? And I didn't want to go down as that type of person. I wanted to have a different type of legacy, especially now that I'm getting ready to have grandkids. I did not want people to come up to my grandkids and say something like that, so I have to contribute everything really to the people that I have surrounded myself with, all thanks by God, because God has brought so many amazing people into my life, and just the positivity that's out there, and being more in touch and in tune with my spiritual side, knowing that I'm being looked over, and knowing I got great friends who think the world about me and want the best for me, and they're sending me positive vibes and they're sending me prayers. And all the many guests, I have to thank so many of my guests that have been on the show, because they have helped me in my growth, in as well as I'm hoping I'm helping in their growth by having him come on the show. It's just been such an amazing journey, and I I really, and I don't know this for sure, but I don't think I would have been in my right mind if I hadn't have gone through what I've gone through the past 16 years. Am I answering your questions?
Yeah, beautifully. There's
Yeah.
no, I mean, it's you're talking from your heart. It's all that matters, and
Yeah.
you're sharing openly, and which we all, anybody who knows you, that's who you are. So there is I still want to drill down a little bit because this wasn't all cherries and rose blossoms here. This just wasn't, or cherry blossoms and roses, something like that. It wasn't all rainbows here. There's pain involved, and pain can be, and it was for you, excruciating. Again, anybody who knows you, you're a physical guy. You've done a lot of stuff in the gym and fitness wise for decades. And so for something, for you to finally throw up your hands and say you need help, it's a big deal. But physical pain has a way of breaking people down emotionally and mentally. With everything you've gone through, you've had two failed surgeries, one helpful surgery. You've had the event in the emergency room. You've had excruciating pain. How do you see, how did you separate the suffering emotionally and physically from the temptation of using again? How did you separate that?
Gosh, that's a great question, Dave. I don't even really know how to answer that, in all honesty.
Let me rephrase it. Have you been drinking
No, I
the
have
last
not.
week? Have you
No,
been using any drugs in the last week? Why
no.
not? Why didn't you go back and just say screw it and go back and do a line or pick up a whiskey bottle? Why did you not do that?
It's because my leg was the most important. My health was the most important. You asked me the other day, even how I was with that. And I thought about it even after we got off the phone, and it did go through my head. I started thinking back and I went, my gosh, it did go through my head when um when I was waiting for the physical therapist to come in and okay me to leave the hospital. And I thought, man, quick second, as soon as I get home, right? And it was such a blink, and it was gone. And it didn't come back in my mind at all, one bit. And it was because my main priority was to get myself back in tip top condition and do everything I can to strengthen this leg back up because it's gone through hell in the last 3 weeks. And that's all that was literally on my mind. And um, again, also for me being the spiritual person that I am, is also asking for that strength, right? Just help me get through each day, God. Just like someone who's starting their recovery for the first day. It's just help me get past this next hour. Help me get past the next 5 minutes. And that's just basically how I've been able to push through this thus far.
So I call that a crossroads. And so many people in recovery hit a moment like this. There's a life altering crisis. Um, Imagine a mom or a dad who's running a business or working, and they're the main earner for kids and a family, and they lose their job tonight. And maybe the business closes. Maybe it's not even a fault of their own. And these old demons, they come knocking, man. The old demons come knocking, and that voice can creep in, and that whisper in the back of one's brain. Hey, man, just one drink. Yeah, it's okay. We've been sober for 17 years. We can control this. Maybe just a pill, or maybe just a line. And you're real in saying, yeah, that happened. That flash happened. But you shut it down, picking something else.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, it's hard. I don't know if it's hard. You get certain tools, right? As you're educating yourself and as you're building yourself, whether through recovery or a different life event or just wanting to be a different person, you start filling your tool pouch full of all types of different kind of tools to help you get through certain things. And I say this on my show quite a bit. Life has a way of throwing shit balls at you. And I just had a lot of shit balls thrown at me, and every single one of them was hitting me in the face. However, also at the same time, every time I got hit in the face, I knew I had a tool for it. And I was able to reach in my pouch, grab that certain tool to help go a different way. I think I told you the other day when we was on the phone, you're like, so how you doing? What's going on? And it's like, man, all I wanted to do was just sit my ass down in the recliner and turn on the TV and sit here and just kind of like feel sorry for myself, right? And instead, I grabbed your and Susan's book that's behind you right now, Actualized Recovery. I'm almost through with it. I grabbed that with my highlighter, started going through, reading it, highlighting different things, and chose to do something different to change where my thoughts were at. And I had to do something different because normally in the past, when I am healthy, if something gets to me, cleaning does something for me. I just like going around and doing something, right? I got to be active. I got to be doing things, turn on some music, listen to some music, iPods, cleaning up. And I don't have a big place to clean, but I'm vacuuming and different things like that. Now I'm not able to do that. Okay, so what do I put in its place? Because there's something I know I can put in its place, and that's exactly what I did. And again, it's just those tools that I think that really helps us along the way.
So for the listeners, you sent me some pictures. The surgeries are horrific. Like we're not talking ortho orthoscopic surgery where there's a little dot and they put something in. There's some pretty nasty cuts in there. Long, big, deep cuts. And your legs still you're still fighting for circulation today. How
Yeah,
are you
I'm still
how
not
are
at
you how when you woke up this morning, how was your leg feeling? How were you feeling physically? Not emotionally, spiritually, just physically. How are you feeling this morning?
I'm feeling irritated. Seriously, every morning it's very irritating for me. Because my foot's still not feeling right. My calf still isn't feeling right. There's certain movements that I don't know if it's a nerve thing or whatever that just about frickin' floors me. I mean, it takes my breath away. And here I am. Gosh, it's been a week, right? Today's Thursday. I had surgery last Thursday, so it's literally been 7 days since then. However, as I get up and I get moving around and I start feeling a little bit more of the circulation coming through, even though I'm irritated, it's crazy. If there was a camera in my place, people would think that I was actually losing it because I'm talking to my leg, right? I'm looking down at my foot and my leg and I'm going, come on, man, let's go. Let's fricking get moving. You know what to do. Heal yourself. Let's go. Come on, man. I got to get back up in the mountains. And I'm sitting here talking to my leg, like it's an individual. And again, that's what helps me as I get up in the morning and I am very irritated. I have been for the past 4 days, no lie. Every evening I'm irritated as hell also. I've been going to bed like at 8 o'clock if I'm not out doing something. And my daughters have been really good about inviting me out to go to places and to get me out, to get me moving. And yeah, go to bed at 8 o'clock just so I can hopefully shut my mind off and take it off of the negative part of things.
So your honesty is powerful. I thank you for that, and I'm sure the listeners do, Al. And it's deep and it's real. What you're saying is real. And the question that comes to mind as I listen to the wake up, I'm irritated. At night, I'm irritated. Uh, how would Al of 17, 18, 19 years ago, who would have this irritation, whether it is about a leg that you almost lost or something else, how would you have handled that irritation 17 years ago compared to how you're handling it this morning? What's the difference?
I probably would have punched a few walls, thrown a few things, and then got on the phone, called my dealer, made some connection, see if somehow if I could get to the store, have somebody bring me over a fifth of whiskey, you know, um, just so just so I could escape it.
So, what's that tell you about your recovery?
Oh my gosh. The growth that has happened for me in the past 16 plus years is just it's just been amazing, and I'm not saying it's been all, rainbows and unicorns at all, because it hasn't. However, knowing now that I have that strength to be able to push it away is just it's just been something great to know. And I did a talk at Red Barn a couple days ago, and um, this person asked me what 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 do I view as the greatest thing that's happened for me in my life during the last 16 plus years. And I'm really glad he asked me that question, because for the very first time in my life, I can say I honestly love who I am as an individual. And I told him that's it. That's it. I mean, other than getting closer to my higher power, who I call God, and really tapping into more of my spirituality, but it's knowing that I can look in the mirror and I can be proud of the person who's staring right back at me.
So when we run into challenges, there's always people that we all lean on. Who did you open up to and who did you lean on? And how did that impact what happened?
Well, first of all, I leaned on God a lot. He's the number one for me. I leaned on you and Susan. You guys knew what was going on. Um, Matter of fact, you guys were even the ones, saying, "Yeah, you need to get some help. You need to have that looked at." My good friend Joe, same thing. Um, my family, my mom, my daughters, just, I mean, we've been close, but it just seems like this has even brought us closer. You know,
Your daughter surprised you afterwards.
oh my gosh, yeah, so much, so much.
She sent you a text.
She did.
Do you feel comfortable in sharing that with everybody?
Yeah, yeah. Give me a second, and I can look it up. It's
When did you get this text? Before or after the third surgery?
I got this after the third surgery. As a matter of fact, it was a couple days. Matter of fact, it was even no, it was the day after. So I had the surgery on a Thursday. She was in St. George at the kids' soccer tournaments when she sent it to me, because she was checking on me almost like every half hour to every hour.
I think you sent it to me today, so if that helps you find it.
Um, yeah, it's just right here. She says, "I am so proud of you and all that you have done, ooh, in life to be strong and healthy. Truly, Dad, it's impressive and something I value and look up to.
Could you read it again?
Yep. I'm so proud of you and all that you have done in life to be strong and healthy. Truly, Dad, it's impressive and something I value and look up to."
What's that mean to you?
Oh my gosh. This is the same daughter that told me years ago that she didn't want to support my podcast anymore or support me because I was always playing the victim. This is the same daughter that basically told me she was proud of me when I finally opened up and shared my story. And for her, which I didn't think she was really paying attention, and be in all honesty, of all the hard work I've put in to get myself back to be physical fit. And basically both doctors told me that could have been the only reason why I still have my leg, is because of how active I've been and how I've really paid attention to my health. And that it just meant the world to me, because both my daughters, both of them, I am so blessed and grateful. They're two amazing women. They speak their mind as well. They don't hold anything back. My ex-wife did an amazing job. I give her credit as well. She just did an amazing job raising these girls. And to see how both of them are into physical fitness. My youngest daughter and I, she invited me to a jazz game last night. She got tickets from her work, and we got to go sit in a suite and really enjoy the game and have some awesome food. And she's talking about how she got out of yoga for a little bit, and now she's getting back into it. And she's showing me her pictures of where she was a week before and now where she's at now, and she's realizing she needs to get herself back into it, and she's getting herself back into the yoga, which she's an amazing. Some of the stuff she can do yoga wise is amazing. You and I would be in the hospital for weeks if we did some of the stuff that she's doing, and then my oldest daughter texted me this morning, and she's like, she couldn't sleep. So she ends up, I think, going to the gym at 3 o'clock in the morning this morning. Just she's like, well, I can't sleep, so I'm gonna go do something. So she goes to the gym and works out, and she's like, Dad, as soon as you get well enough, you and I are gonna go do this, and it means so much that where I have chosen to take my life, the direction to take my life to, I have impacted my kids without even realizing I was doing it.
But those bridges were burned 17, 18 years ago. You've told me that they were done with you. Those bridges were burned, and now your relationship seems incredible.
Yeah, I mean, my oldest daughter was her and I have always been close, and my son-in-law told me once, it's like, he's like, Pops, it's so funny because Megan, who is my oldest daughter, she can get mad at her mom and she'll be mad at her mom for weeks. She gets mad at you and she's mad at you for 20 minutes. But it's just that bond that we've had, right? Ever since she was just a little girl. But we really didn't have that closeness. It really did pretty much kind of separate, I believe. Yeah, and it's just come back so much stronger, right? There's been more pillars put under the bridge, and I don't see anything breaking this down at all for either one of them.
So, but the text you read us isn't about, well, it is, but it isn't about how you approached the potential of losing your leg. It's not what that text is about. That text
Oh,
is so much bigger.
yeah. Yeah, so much bigger. It's just the strength and the resiliency that I've shown throughout the years. That I believe that's what that text meaning is, or the meaning behind that text.
Um, we've talked about a lot of things, like the darkest night. It sounds like the first night, you get some thoughts, but also when you're checking out, that the demons can flicker in. You chose, we teach this too, but you had a thought. And for everybody, we all get negative thoughts. And actually, I won't get into the brain science behind it, but we all get negative thoughts. You had a negative thought just before you left the hospital. We don't have to act or believe negative thoughts. How did you defeat that negative thought? How did you push that out? And did you feel guilty about having that negative thought? Were you like, "Oh shit, I'm in trouble here"?
No, I didn't feel guilty at all.
So
And
how did you defeat? Because we all get them. How did you defeat and crush that negative thought?
the only way I could put this, Dave, is it's just been through practice and learning throughout these years. It could have been different 5 years ago if that thought would have creeped in my head, right? I could have hung on to it for a longer period of time. It's that growth, and it's the only way that I'm able to see it. It's that growth that I have gone through these past umpteen years, to where it just came and went. It just came and went. And you and Susan know this because this is what you teach. This is what you have even taught me and so many of us in our class of coaching, right? We can have all the thoughts that we want, whether positive or negative. It's still our choice in the direction that we go. And as long as we continue to choose, hopefully making those right choices, we have now built a stronger pathway to help us get through to the next point. And I really, that's the only thing I can contribute it to, that I've just been able to build stronger pathways, neural pathways, if we want to use the brain type approach, healthier ones to where it was there, it was gone. Because for some reason, it's not that I knew, it's just it came in automatically the direction I needed to go. If this is making sense, so put it as like what you did with our class, and even at the Healing Utah Success Summit. I brush my teeth with my right hand, right? Piece of cake. When you asked all of us who use our right hand to use our left hand for the next 7 days, I mean, it was 100% right. I had toothpaste. I'd miss my mouth. I'd have it on my chin. I'd have it on my cheeks, and even drooling in a way, which is crazy because I don't drool when I'm brushing with my other hand, but after so many days, I think it took me about 8, 9 days, and I actually did it for almost 12 or 13 days. It started getting easier. Why? Because I was starting to build a healthier path, a different path. I was
You were rewiring your brain.
rewiring the brain. And with everything that I've been practicing all these years, that's the only thing that I can contribute it to. And I hope to the listeners this makes sense. It's I have taken a weak A and B path from point A to point B and go, okay, I'm not going to go from B to C. I'm just going to build a new A and a new B.
Right.
I'm gonna start all over again.
But you're talking about habits and
Mhm.
patterns and behaviors. And people, when they think habits and when they teach habits, New Year's Eve, all the promises people make, they rely on willpower, not brain power. What you're talking about is how a habit is actually formed. How we learn to ride a bike or brush our teeth is a brain issue, and you have to do that over and over. Here's why this applies: is then the the ability to handle trauma becomes different. An emotional trauma, physical trauma becomes different when you have patterns or habits that are more positive.
Yes. Yeah. Amen. That's the only thing I can contribute it to
So,
that day.
but the other thing that pops over and over and over, and your daughter actually, I think you mentioned it from her. Yeah, your one daughter who talked about your podcast and the word victim. So when at the healing success, what was the healing
Feeling
success
Utah Success Summit. Yeah.
Utah Success Summit in the fall, which is a great thing for people, anybody in recovery that you and your friends put on, Al, for the community that we were blessed to be part of this year. But you got up and spoke about being a victim, and we teach this, and this is a comes from the world of psychology about victimhood versus being empowered. So from a victim to being a hero. The victim, hearing this news about losing their leg, and a hero, about hearing the news about maybe losing their leg, would view this very differently. Remember, the victim, there's three clues. They blame people, they complain, and they justify their actions. Blame, complain, justify. I don't hear any blame today. I don't hear any complaining today. I hear you being real, but it's not whining and complaining. Not at all. You're sharing this story of this is what I went through, and man, I had some dark thoughts, but no, this is what I did. You have approached this from the other triangle, from the hero triangle, and owned your choices.
Yeah.
So the thing that comes to me is the saying, and we've all heard this. We've all heard this. Life happens for me, not to me. You have embodied that with this challenge, which is still ongoing, by the way, everybody. You have embodied this belief that maybe you don't have the answers, but it's all gonna be for the best. Life happens for me, not to me.
Yeah. Yeah. Amen. And you and I spoke about it on the phone a couple days ago, if I'm not mistaken, Dave. It's this is just another part of my journey, right? Another part of my story, another life-changing event that I can share in hopes to help other individuals, no matter which way it turns out. Um, However it turns out, again, it's happening for me. There's a reason behind it, and my version is when anything happens, that's the reason why.
Yeah, but Al, if you started drinking, it'd be way more fun. I mean, life would be just more fun.
I don't know if it'd be more fun. I'd wake up probably with a nasty headache, and I don't miss those days.
Yeah, that's me being, sarcastic and
Yeah.
silly. But what I'm listening to and thinking about as I'm listening to you, there are people that go, being in recovery is boring and crappy. I don't want that. I want, this over here is fun. But I don't believe if you had been drinking and using, your daughter would have invited you to the suites at the Jazz game.
Oh, but absolutely not. Absolutely not. And it's crazy too. I do have to share this. So we get in the suite. I know they're going to have food and drink there, right? Because
Yep.
that's what suites have.
Yep.
And I had left my water in the car, of course, because you can't bring it into the Delta Center. And by the time we get to the suite, I'm just thirsty as hell. And first thing I look for once I hang the coats up is the refrigerator. And I'm looking, and the first thing I see is beer, seltzers. I mean, just right there. And I'm going, and pop. And I'm going, oh shit, where's the water? Where's the water? And I'm going, oh my gosh, a seltzer would taste so freaking good right now. I'd love to have a seltzer. And finally, I spotted the water, and I'm like, oh my gosh, thank goodness there's a water. And my youngest daughter drinks wine. She's not a big wine drinker. She likes to have a glass of wine here and there, and she's an adult woman. It's not my place as a father, at least for me, that I don't see. I know she doesn't have an issue with if she wants to drink. However, she knows where I'm at as well, right? And we just both grabbed a water. I'm like, sweetie, you want a water? She goes, yeah, absolutely. So I grab her a water and me a water, and we go get our seats and sit down and watch the game. But there for a second, again, I walked in and saw that seltzer because no one else in that suite knows what I do. They don't know that I work with the recovery community, as at least as far as I know, they don't. So I could have sat there and just really enjoyed myself. However, my enjoyment was so much more because I got to sit next to my daughter. We had some good laughs, and we enjoyed the game. We got to sit down and eat together. And to me, that was probably the best high I could get. It beats doing a line and drinking a whiskey and a Coke by 1,000, if not more, percent. Because whatever I put in my body doesn't love me, right? If it's not healthy, what I have next to me loves me and cares about me. And that's a big difference.
That's the difference of a victim, though,
Yeah.
is run into. We are all going to run into traumatic major events. Do you use that as an excuse to do something negative in your life, or do you say no? There's a bigger reason, and you stay on point of what's important, and you understand now that you are responsible for your choices.
Hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, and it is, and Dave, you know this, right? It really is so easy to fall in that victim mentality. It's so freaking easy to do it.
It,
And it takes time. It definitely takes time. I mean, for the listeners that are wanting to change and go for it and move in a different direction, it doesn't happen overnight. My addiction didn't happen overnight. Most people's addiction didn't happen overnight. So it takes that time. And I like to use an infant, a baby, for an example. I mean, we're so resilient when we're babies and don't even realize it, right? All we can do is lay on our back and we finally learn how to roll on our tummy. Then we finally learn how to get up on our hands and knees. And then we finally learn how to move our hands and knees in a sequence to get us from point A to point B to point C. Then all of a sudden we're standing up, we're finding ways to get ourselves up, whether we're using a chair, a coffee table, or whatever, or our parents, or and next thing we know, we decide to take a step and we fall and hit our chin on that coffee table or the couch, and or we fall backwards and hit our head and we cry, but yet we turn around and we get right back up again and we do it again. And same thing happens, but we get back up and we do it again. And before we know it, we're walking. Next thing we know it, we're running. It's the same with our growth as adults. If we go back and think, which we don't remember those times, but if we look at it that way, I posted something on my Facebook the other day about my son-in-law coaches my grandson's soccer team. Great bunch of young boys. They play hard. They've been so used to winning. My son-in-law realized that they're starting to get a little bit cocky, right? Their egos are starting to get up there a little bit because they're winning games by 7 goals plus most of the time.
Yep.
So when he signs them up for this tournament, and of course he speaks to the parents, and he's like, "I'm going to put them in a higher bracket," so they're challenged. He wants to challenge, he wants other people to challenge him because he wants to see how they're going to take it. Their first game last weekend, they lost 7-0. It was turned back on them in a heartbeat. They're the one,
That's humbling.
right? Isn't that humbling? Those boys buckled down and they ended up going all the way to the semifinals. The resilience that those young men pushed through of we are not going to let these better teams push us around. We are going to go out there and we're going to fight. To me, they just taught some of us adults some things, right? Instead of just going out there and going, well, great, we're in a higher bracket. We just lost our first game 7-0. We got shut out. What's the youth that, why play any harder? Those kids played harder than they ever played before. Not saying that they didn't give everything they had before because they're
So you're
up
again, you're
there.
talking, but you can get into the leadership of the coach and your son-in-law, beautiful thing, but they faced adversity and a challenge, and there's two options: to be the victim and whine and complain and give up, or you go, I'm going to do my best. And it's with the leadership. They're young, so they took the leadership going that direction and had great growth.
Yeah, absolutely.
Plus, your son is a hell of a soccer player. You said
Oh,
I've seen highlights.
ooh. Yeah, my grandson's freaking amazing. He already told me his life plan. And I said, "What is it?" He goes, "I will end up being a professional soccer player and I'll be retired by the age of 25." I'm like, "You go get it, kid. Go after it." And he is. That kid's carrying a soccer ball with him everywhere he goes. It's either at his feet or he's carrying it to where he can put it down and kick the ball around. He's constantly practicing. Constantly. If he ain't at practice, he's in his backyard practicing.
So I want to turn it back as we begin to wrap up here. Al, I want to turn it back to the conversation. The surgeon met with you right before the third surgery and said you might lose your leg. I'm not overreaching. This is what happened, correct? He said that?
This was the one in the emergency
Right.
room.
Okay, in the emergency
Not
room, you may lose your leg, but because of your physical health, there's a good chance we could save your leg. That's basically what he said, right? Can you correct me?
yeah, he and she, the other doctor who actually did the surgery on me.
But
Yeah.
they both connected that to your health, your physical health and well-being, as to helping the percentages that maybe they can keep your leg. Am I right?
Yes.
So here's what happened from a recovery point of view that I want to share with other people. They gave you hope.
Hmm.
What hope can you give people who may be struggling with their demons, whether they're using things or gambling or whatever it is they're doing, or even their thoughts? What hope can you share with people today based on your lessons in your life for them?
You don't have to stay where you're at. You may be looking forward and all you see is dark. But that little bit of hope, picture it this way. You could be in a tunnel, a cave, and it's pitch black. But in the far, far distance, you could see just one little teeny, like a pinhead of light coming through, and you don't know where that light's coming from. As long as you continue to focus on that light and move towards it, it gets brighter and brighter and brighter. To keep that hope, to keep that, I don't like to use the word belief because of the word lie in it. And um, to keep the strength, I'll put it that way, to keep that strength, knowing that while you're working your way towards that dot of light, you're going to trip. You're going to fall over things you can't see. You may hit your head on something as you're moving forward. However, as long as you continue to get back up and continue to keep moving forward and keep that strength, you'll get there. You will definitely get there and celebrate. I think this is very important. Celebrate every single freaking minute, second, hour, day. Celebrate. Celebrate. Because a guest of mine taught me a valuable lesson years ago who battled porn addiction for 3 decades. Thought about committing suicide on a business trip, said a prayer before he decided that he was going to jump off this bridge. And a voice came to him that said, why are you beating yourself up so much? Why are you not celebrating the days you didn't use? Because they use the same terminology. And he stopped himself and he got thinking, my gosh, I've gone 3 days before. I've gone a week before. I've gone 2 days. So he started celebrating the good days. And before he knew it, he's a year, 3 years, 8 years, 10 years, 15 years. And he says that's what helped him just to stay focused on the direction. And even though he fell, he got right back up and went, that's okay. I went 3 days. I'll be fine. So just keep focusing on that hope.
That's one of the lessons in gratitude. To a lot of people talk about gratitude journals and saying things you're grateful for, which is phenomenal. But one of the parts then is also to celebrate things and when we do that, we rewire our brain to think less about the negative and more about the wins. So celebration is a great thing.
Yes,
Let's
sir.
talk about the legacy of this current. I'll use the word battle because I've used trauma so much. The legacy of this current battle. And when you look, Al, when you look at this chapter of your life, the three surgeries, the pain, and I'll say the excruciating pain, the resilience that you've shown, how how do you think this will shape the way you show up for others in their recovery from behaviors or substances, and how does this experience make you even a stronger voice for those in recovery?
My gosh, that's a really good question. Haven't even really thought of it. Earlier I talked about adding more tools in my pouch. It's added another one. It also has made me realize where growth and resiliency can take us as individuals. Again, it's however we choose, right? Because I could have definitely chosen a different path and look and be grateful. And it sounds crazy. Why would somebody be grateful that they had an opportunity to lose a limb? And I'm grateful because it's gotten me to look at life even differently. Um, and knowing that no matter what, I could get through. You know, something that really helped me, and I want to share this beautiful lady by the name of Amber was on my show. I think she lives in like New Jersey or something like that, and she showed a video of her daughter that has some challenges, health challenges. And this little girl is trying to learn how to get herself up on a stool to sit on a stool, which comes so naturally for all of us, right? We just walk over to it and sit down. This little girl doesn't have the strength in her arms to help pull herself up to sit down. And she's on her back and she falls and she cries a little bit. But then her mom's saying, "Hey, come on, you almost had it. You got it, right?" And then her mom showed a video again of her actually doing that same process, but got herself up on the stool. And the look on that little girl's face said it all, right? And it's like, here I am, a grown man in my 60s, go back to play the victim. I could play the victim. I could look at all the negative stuff that could come out of this. And then that picture, that video of that little girl who's probably 3 years of age, not giving up and getting to see where she's at on a stool, something that we take for granted. It's like, oh, hell no, hell no. This, however, the way it turns out, it's going to work out in a benefit. Somehow, some way, I don't know, but it'll work out in my favor.
We go through life. I go through life, but we all go through life cruising along, and you were cruising along, and then life happens. So many in our work of thousands of people we worked with, so many people then go, well, why did this happen to me? That's not the question because stuff happens. You didn't do anything to intentionally hurt yourself and your legs. Like, wait a minute, and you're a fit guy that hits the gym, and I don't. You never once in this podcast today, never once said I had the thought of, well, why me? Why did this happen? You haven't. Maybe you had that thought, but you haven't shared it today. Did you ever have that thought?
Right at the beginning, after he said it at the
Okay.
inside the emergency room, yeah,
And
yeah,
then that what came after that? How did you process that?
just going through my thoughts, right, and just doing my best to wrap everything around my fingers. I just taking everything in because I mean it's a devastating blow. It's like being sucker
Sure.
punched in the gut or in the groin, right? Just out of nowhere, it's just pow. You're blindsided. You're blindsided. You know, being a young boy and being around the Evil Knievel era
I
and
remember Evil Knievel, and if you don't remember Evil Knievel, you got to Google him and watch a video. Go ahead,
yeah,
tell me about Evil.
and just building ramps and jumping over garbage cans and different things like that, and we'd take some hellacious wipeouts, and that was back before hell, you didn't wear helmets or none of that stuff. You did what you did. And there was quite a few times I remember going off some pretty good jumps and coming off my bike and getting the wind knocked out of me. You know, that's that sucker punch. And you're doing everything you can just to grasp and breathe to start breathing normal again. And it's a panic at first. And that's how it was for me. It was just a panic at first. But however, the more that I sat with it, and and it really did help having my daughter there, right? She's holding my hand. She's not saying anything. She did not say a word to me. I think she said once, "Are you okay, Dad?" And I says, "Yeah, Dad, we'll be fine." And the rest of the time, she just sat there and held my hand, and we just sat and listened to the doctor. And once I got my breath back, I had to do everything possibly that I could do that I knew with what I had and what I have learned to go in a positive direction and not go in the direction that could have possibly pushed me more to the negative part of things where maybe something bad would happen. Because I do feel that when we change our thoughts in a positive way, positive outcomes happen. If we change our thoughts in a negative way, negative things can happen in our life. It's just how the universe works. It's how we're wired. And it just took some time. It really did take some time, even when I got into my room, right? I mean, almost reality was really starting to hit when I first got wheeled into my room. I'm going, and it's crazy. I've never had high blood pressure in my whole life, ever. My blood pressure was high. And they're like, your blood pressure's high. We got to put you on something to get your blood pressure down. The doctor wants it below, right around normal. And I'm like, I've not ever had issues with my blood pressure. I don't understand. And yeah, some of it could be the pain that I'm in, because again, I worked all day in freaking just pain. It was miserable. I could not even stand being at work because I was so miserable. And, but also that shock of what I just heard. And I just had to finally accept it and just go, hey, this is just where it's at right now. Just do everything you can with what you have to chill your ass down, relax. I did lots of breathing, tons of breathing. Oh my gosh. Um, yeah, I was in that bed taking some huge, huge deep breaths and exhales. A couple times when no one was in my room, I'd close my eyes and just kind of like do a quick breath meditation to help ground me again and help calm me down because I did not want to go that direction. And it was a battle. It definitely was a battle there for a bit.
I thank you today for your openness. We've gone deeper than we've even talked. I thank you for our friendship, but I thank you really today for your openness on this journey. And here's why I believe this to be important today is you just talked about the surprise blow, the body blow. They happen in life. We lose loved ones, we lose pets, we lose jobs, we lose marriages, we lose our health at times. Sometimes we bring that on through lifestyle. Sometimes it just happens. Doesn't matter how. It's like there's, and then today, right now, I believe this today. Well, I know this right now. Today, there are people that are on the edge, and there may be some people that are listening who are on the edge. Some people may have 10 years of recovery, and something's happened. That crisis, that trauma, the unbearable loss. Am I allowed to? By the way, am I allowed to swear on this podcast?
Oh yeah, we swear here and there.
Because there was a period of my life, I've never shared this with you. There's a period of my life where I lived in Fucketsville. I didn't just live in Fucketsville, I was the mayor of Fucketsville. I was in charge. It was a dark period of my life around trauma and loss. And I moved into that town. And it took a mind shift for me to go, no, no, I'm losing what's important to me, and I'm going to focus on what's important to me, not what's happened to me. So we can get into we can have a whole podcast on called Fucketsville one day, but anybody who's been in recovery or been in addiction understands that town.
Yeah.
And there are people today listening to this podcast on the maybe even driving somewhere, or maybe you've even started using it again. It's okay. That's okay. You can always choose to put it down. But the power today is your message from one survivor, Al, who had a body blow knock them sideways, knock the wind right out of them. Take your health, take your vibrance, take your work, take your mobility away from you, and maybe lose your leg. What's the message you want to share with them today, with those people?
Don't let what's happened to you define you. As I said earlier, life's going to throw shitballs at us. That's just how life is. It's what builds us. It's what builds our character. It's what builds our strengths. As long as you take it that way, because you can take it the different direction if you choose to. We've talked about choices throughout this whole podcast. You just mentioned it. You know, you you have to look at really what's important to you, because there ain't a person on this earth who hasn't gone through something traumatic. Some worse than others, absolutely. But a traumatic event is a traumatic event. And some of us take it differently than others, right? I could lose a pet that I'm so in love with and truly care about and be okay a week later, where others, it may take years for them to let it go. Don't allow whatever has put you in a dark area. Don't allow it to pitch a tent and stay there. I I am huge on allow your feelings to take its course. You don't need to be ashamed of them. Talk to people who maybe have gone through the same thing. Because if you talk to people that haven't gone through what you're going through, they won't understand. They won't direct you in the direction that you need to go. Not meaning to. It's just they just don't know where you're at, right? It's easy for addicts to talk to addicts because they understand addicts. Allow your emotions to happen. Go through them. God gave them to us for a reason. Build off of it. It's another pillar you can put in your column, another brick you can put in your column to help strengthen it, and brush yourself off and just keep moving, because I guarantee you a week down the road or even the next day or maybe even months down the road, you're going to get knocked down again. And the more we continue to brush ourselves off, the more we continue to look at life in a positive, as life is happening to us and not for it, or life is happening for us, not to us. You just keep building that strength to help you get through whatever life's going to throw at you.
Well, I love your brother, and very much. I cherish, and I'm very cherish our relationship, and um, I hope that anybody who may be on the edge reaches out to Al, and he's the real deal. You live what you say. You say what you do, and you do what you say. And there's integrity and honesty in that, including being vulnerable today. You've shared some really vulnerable parts today, Al. Um, I just champion that, and that's it. I'm closing out. It's your podcast. You get to end this.
All right.
I'm handing you back the steering wheel here.
All right. Well, I'll just hand it over to God because he's the one that has my steering wheel. Every single time I grab hold of it, I end up in a ditch or in a wall again. But, and Dave, I just want to say thank you. Thank you so much for your and Susan's friendship. I mean, our friendship is just built off the very first time all of us met, which you guys were guests on my show a couple times. You guys have been my coaches. I love and appreciate and respect both of you a ton, so much. And thank you for caring and always checking in on me, making sure everything's great, and the love that you guys have for me, man. It just means the world to me. So thank you for being the host of the show today. Greatly appreciate it. And you are a phenomenal host. And yeah, I just want to say thank you to you and all my guests that I've had in the past and future guests that I've got coming on. It's crazy. I missed last week because I was in the hospital, but the calendar was full. I almost even did the podcast. My mom was actually bringing my computer to me at the hospital because I was still going to do my show in the hospital bed. But um, Dave DeRocher, the executive director of TOSA, was going to be my guest, and he's like, "No." No, you concentrate on healing. We'll reschedule, buddy. And I'm like, okay. But again, thank you to everybody. Thank you to all our listeners. You guys are the ones that's making this show possible. You guys are the ones that's making the show a success. You guys are the reason why this show has been going for almost 4 years. I love and respect every single one of you. And remember this, addiction is giving up everything for one thing, and recovery is giving up one thing for everything. We're out.